This PC case behind me is the Performance One Silent from Antec. And my oh my, is this a beefy full tower. Now we've partnered with Antec to not only discuss some of the features of the Silent revision of the Performance One, the original of which you've probably already seen on this channel, but also to build in it. The thing is though, I don't want to just throw your average Joe, vanilla PC build inside of this case. I want something different. I want something that you're gonna remember. And I'll give you a hint, it starts with an Intel Core i7 Extreme processor. This thing's like a decade old. That's right, folks. Welcome to the Throwback Gaming PC. This one's probably unlike anything you've ever seen on this channel. I'm super excited. I hope you will stay with me. If you're sick of seeing that same Activate Windows watermark over and over, head on over to VIP SCD Key, where they have Windows 10 and 11 Pro OEM keys at a fraction of the price of retail. Just use a secure payment method like PayPal, enter your product key into your PC settings window, and say bye-bye to the watermark. And be sure to use our offer code SKGS for that sweet discount. Let's talk about my intent behind a build like this, because I'm sure I've raised some eyebrows pairing a much newer chassis with, very old internals. And my reasoning is twofold. Obviously, Antec wanted to partner with us in this video, and I thought that this case actually fit the bill quite nicely because it's not a super glamorous, flashy, ostentatious design. The Performance One in general, I think, is a very modest look to it, and the Silent version actually doesn't even have a transparent side panel. Like, both panels are completely solid. This is not about RGB or anything like that. It's just utility, pure utility, business casual. You're gonna have a very quiet system, hopefully, inside of this, and we're definitely gonna put that to the test with some of the hardware we're gonna be throwing inside of it. The second reason why I didn't choose a much older case is because, well, I tried, but couldn't find one that was in a decent enough shape on eBay. There were so many just older Corsair and Cooler Master chassis that were so scratched up, so dented, they weren't really worthy of being included in a video like this, because some of this hardware, believe it or not, has never been used, including this Core i7 Extreme here, which I got from a friend. Hank, if you're watching, thank you so much, my friend. He's a bit of a PC tech hoarder, but we make use of it when we can. So to be fully transparent, this Antec video was supposed to be fully separate from the Throwback PC video, which I expected to air sometime before the end of the year, but I think the overlap works. I think that this case is probably the perfect new candidate for a bunch of older, high-end, frankly, hardware, at least back in the day. Moving on then to other parts in this build, we have to start with the Intel Core i7 980X. This is the heart, the brain of the system, and I've got to be honest with you, I have my cheat sheet here. This came out so long ago, I don't even remember when it launched. I was a freshman in high school. Yeah, over a decade old, based on 32 nanometer architecture, released back in Q1 of 2010. I cannot believe that we have an example this well preserved in the office. Hank, again, if you're watching, huge thanks to you. Apparently Hank has broken the seal. He purchased this new, if I recall correctly. He looked inside, I think around the time he bought it, but he never actually built with this chip. So it's untouched by human hands, at least since being sold. I cannot believe it. You can see it there at the top. So super excited. Again, it's almost an honor to be able to build with a chip like this that has never been built with before. It will be a nice throwback for sure. Hank has also provided the motherboard for this build, and again, it has gone unused. It's been opened, but never thrown together in a working system before. This is the original receipt as well. I cannot believe this. So this was purchased in April of 2011 for 200 bucks. It's actually not bad today for an X58 motherboard. We have, look at that, sealed rear IO shields. That is crazy that something that's sold has gone unused like this and that we were able to get our hands on one. This is such a cool experience. Look at that, the motherboard still in its plastic wrap. Holy cow. Oh man, I miss the way these boards look. Look at that, so beautiful looking. They don't make boards with these kinds of designs anymore, and that's frankly disappointing. And rounding out the platform, DDR3. Remember, our motherboard accepts triple channel memory. It has 6 DIMM slots. So I bought 6 brand new, never before used DDR3 modules from Corsair. Not bad. Now, when it came to graphics, things got a bit dicey. I was torn between, say, like a GTX 780 or a 780 Ti and something like an R9 Fury. I didn't want to go too far back because, I mean, like a GTX 500 series card would pretty much be unplayable. Any modern game today, you really aren't going to be able to run on something that old. And even this model right here, an R9 290, is going to be cutting it awfully close. It does have 4 gigs of VRAM though, and actually it's still kind of sort of capable in 720p and light 1080p. It again totally depends on the title you're trying to run. This is an infamous SKU because it runs extremely hot. R9 290s, 290Xs, 390s, 390Xs. I think they're, are they Fiji? I think they're Fiji and Hawaii based graphics processing units. I might be totally wrong there. It's been, again, several years. This is as old as I really wanted to go. Still a throwback for sure, not quite as old as our platform, but I think it will blend in nicely. Now you know why I wanted to pair it with an airflowy case like the Antec Performance One Silent. Not only does it come with 3 140mm fans up front and a fully perforated front panel, which actually looks quite nice if you ask me, but it also comes with a 4th fan at the rear, a 120mm, all PWM, and all expected to run very silent. Of course, this being a silent SKU, you should expect that. I actually don't remember what this is that I ordered. I think it's the CPU cooler. I'm not sure why it has fragile written all over it, but I'm not gonna complain. Not that that stops any, shipping company from actually doing damage. If anything, it might draw more attention to it, but I appreciate the effort by the eBay seller. So if this is what I think it is, I was able to find this, I think it was new as well, a very old CPU cooler that kind of fits in with the era of this build. Check this out, a Cooler Master V8 GTS. I don't know how I found some of this stuff, but apparently it's unused. It doesn't really matter if it's used or not. As long as it works, I'm okay with it. Look at these built-in red LEDs here. This is like so 2010. I love it so much. As for these last 2 components, storage and power supply, kind of the same arguments I used for the case. I don't want to buy an older power supply because I'm not sure how abused it would have been in the past, nor how long it would last in the future, and I don't want to risk killing any of our other hardware. Same goes for storage. Not so much the longevity of the drive, although reads and writes do matter, and how many times those reads and writes have, especially the write cycles. That's where you really need to watch out in the case of SSDs here. You also just don't want to risk buying a used drive that has something sketchy on it. You connect it to your rig and then there you go, boom, everything's gone. It's happened. So this here is everything, and now it is time to assemble it all. Starting first with, of course, the platform. First up is CPU installation. Remember, this is LGA 1366. We're gonna drop the CPU. I think it goes in, no, it goes in upside down. I almost botched that. So upside down here, text facing the wrong way around, and set it like so. We can lower this back down and then lower the retention arm. See, it was a text, it's backwards. 48 gigs of DDR3 is going in this bad boy, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm super excited about. I don't think I've ever had this much RAM in triple channel before. So let's, there we go. Install one at a time, all the way through 1 to 6. It doesn't matter your religion, creed, or sex. I think we can all agree this looks beautiful. Now onto the cooler, and well, I noticed right away, this is definitely used. I'm not sure why the previous owner was too lazy to just remove the paste. This is kind of gross, but whatever. I've got to say though, having this large of a cold plate, it's actually super convenient. It is way easier to clean this way. Yeah, don't mind me, I haven't installed one of these, I think, ever. I'm gonna use the thermal paste that came with the cooler. Probably not the best idea, but it seems to have a decent consistency. And now we're going to gently lower the cooler down. I don't think we're gonna have DRAM clearance here. Yep, that is perfect. I was trying to triple check things online and make sure this would all fit. I think we just barely made it out. Wow, starting to remember now how difficult some of these air coolers were to tighten down in the past. Look at it, look how silly this is. And like, this little included tool isn't even, it's not even long enough and angled steep enough to get around things. Now we can get this rear IO shield installed, again, untouched before today. It's just insane how well preserved all of this is. Gonna lower the platform in now, make sure things aligned properly. This is like the standard, ATX standoff location, so nothing too weird, but I wanna make sure that we aren't snagging anything, including some of these included fan cables. It almost wants to sit in there. It's real close. There we go. That was probably a cringy sound, but it's in now. I bet Antec's watching this right now thinking, wow, we did not expect Greg to pick such old parts for this new case. Now, unfortunately, this motherboard doesn't use the standard JFP1 pinout for front panel, and since this case has a unified front panel connector, we can't simply just plug this in here because the pins won't line up correctly. I don't think there's an adapter in either of these boxes, so we might have to fashion something together a bit later. We've got about 1 inch of additional clearance above the CPU cooler, so we should be able to install our left side panel with ease, which, by the way, is not, again, a tempered glass panel. It is a solid panel with sound deadening material. I actually get this on both the left and right panels in the Performance One Silent from Antec, which is nice. This should keep our overall audible tones a bit lower. In fact, if I had to wager, I'd say this panel weighs about 3 or 4 pounds, which is pretty good considering it's not glass, and I think a lot of that has to do with the deadening material itself, very densely packed, which is going to be great for sound absorption. By the way, if you're curious, many of the Performance One FT's qualities carry over into the Silent iteration here, so you still get 8 PCI slots at the rear, by definition a full tower. You still get plenty of hardware mounting options, especially up top and up front. In fact, these 140mm fans are going to do a lot of good in keeping this system quiet, since larger fans don't have to spin as fast to displace a similar amount of air as their smaller counterparts. We've got an integrated temperature display as well, which we might not be able to hook up to this mother. Actually, I think it's USB 2 enabled, so we probably can get it to work on this older board, although we won't be able to connect the Type-C and even USB 3 ports here. Our X58 Sabertooth doesn't even have USB 3, which, yeah, if that tells you anything about how old this board is, that's, it's freaking old. And then, yeah, airflow. That's the other really good quality, I think, of the Performance One lineup. They just get nice perforated front panels here with those 3 intakes. I mean, it's going to be tough to overheat this. I mean, you'd have to like improperly mount something, or yeah, in our case, maybe run an R9 290. I'm not entirely sure how well or not well this card's going to perform. I mean, even if it was on an open air test bench, it's still going to run pretty hot, at least from what I've seen online. And I have dabbled with these cards in the past, but that was several years ago. That said, I think the Performance One Silent is going to give us more or less a best case scenario, assuming we aren't just going to be building, say, on our desk with no case at all. Speaking of, let's go ahead and install it. I usually save this bit for later, but well, it's in my hands already, so why not? Let's go ahead and snap it in like so. It's not as big as I thought it was going to be in this fairly large case, but we'll work with it. I'm gonna slide in this SSD. These included 2.5-inch trays come in very, very handy. In goes the SATA data cable. And now it's time for the power supply. This is much beefier than we really need. And well, I'm doing this for peace of mind. Like I said, I'd prefer to use a new power supply, even in an older, vintage styled rig, just to be on the safe side. This new Eco is 1,000 watts, 80+ gold certified. It is, oh, that's the wrong direction. It is fully modular and ready for your next PC build. Check it out in the link below if you are interested. I don't know if you're gonna believe this, but once this is good and hooked up, we are pretty much finished. Perks of an air-cooled system, am I right? We've got the 24-pin run, 8-pin EPS way up top there, and our PCIe supplemental 8-pin and 6-pin. At this point, I was ready to comment on how great the Performance One Silent's cable management is. This is, again, a very large case, so it better have good cable management. It certainly does, but in this case, it's really not, it's not showing that well because we don't have a ton of stuff going on. If you want a more dense build inside a virtually identical case in the Performance One FT, be sure to check out the video linked in the description. We are ready to put the right and left side panels on. Probably leave the left side panel off for the sake of the video, just so you guys can see what's happening on the inside. And we can power on for the first time. I'm super excited, also a bit nervous because well, it's possible the system doesn't actually work. As such, I'm not even sure if it's worth showing this clip, but why not? What the heck? One finger, gonna lock in nice and easy. We have so much space back here to work with. And from the other side, the view still looks great. Now, we're gonna have a left side panel here that's gonna literally block everything, but for the sake of the video, we're not going to install it. I've gotta say, this hardware actually blends in quite nicely with this much more modern Performance One Silent. I thought there would be a bit of a contrast here. The age of the internals would definitely stand out in a much newer chassis, but it really works. I think this speaks to how little, I guess in one sense of the word, the design language has shifted in the PC space. Yes, things are probably more sleek now, they're more RGB-ified, but by and large, I mean, motherboards more or less look the same. They have more or less the same functions, and unless you're really looking in the right places, you might think this was a modern build. Now, a few other very small issues with using much older hardware in a newer case. You'll see here that, well, it looks like we've got two 4-pin PWM fans connected to this board, when in reality, these connectors are just 3 pins. So we're not going to be able to take advantage of pulse width modulation. This will just be voltage controlled fans, which means they're probably not going to run as quiet as they normally would. Still not a big deal. And of course, no USB Type-C support, not even USB 3.0 with this board, which I'm kind of surprised by. I get my dates mixed up. I'm not sure if USB 3 was like a standard. I don't think it was when this board was manufactured. Otherwise, it should have been here in a board of this caliber. But that is also worth noting. And of course, front panel, we still need to fix that. I probably won't do that, and this video is going to take a little while to splice some wires up. But for now, we can just jump the power pins here at the bottom. Speaking of, how about we fire this thing up? I know you guys are curious about how this is going to perform. I'm not going to focus too much on that in this video. We'll probably just run it through 3D Mark Time Spy and kind of see how it stacks up. This being rather high-end hardware for the time, it might still hold its own. I'm not sure. And maybe we'll also try Fire Strike, because Time Spy's 1440p. It's a bit, that's asking a bit much. I'm also taking bets on whether or not the CMOS battery on this motherboard actually works or not. Seeing as though it's almost 13 years old at this point, it very well could be dead. Oh, I forgot. I have to manually jump the pins. I can't find my screwdriver, so I'm just going to use this. This is cringy, so just maybe don't do this. But here we go. That'll do it. Look at that, red LEDs to match our red R9290. Of course, the AMD theming, gotta love that. It is running a bit louder than I thought it would at this point, and I think some of that has to do with the motherboard and it only supporting voltage controlled fans instead of PWM, especially for the front intake ones. Let's see, I'm gonna connect an HDMI cable. I wonder if it's already posted and it's just gonna run this loud forever.
12 o'clock midnight.
I can see it now. This is going to be a fairly embarrassing conclusion to the video because we can't seem to get the dang thing to post. That sucks. Yeah, would you look at that? About half a volt coming from this battery. That is not even close to what we need. We need 3 volts. I'm gonna steal one from a much newer board then. Pop it right in here. If I can, there we go. Here's to hoping that was the only issue with this rig. I'm going to jump the power pins again here. Oh, I should power on the unit first. Here we go. Come on, give us something. Show us a sign, please. Please post, please. This could very well turn into the last episode of Season 4 of Fix or Flop. I did not see that coming. Oh boy, I don't know what else to do. I think we're going to save this for Fix or Flop. And I hate to leave you guys on a cliffhanger. That's not, I never want to do that. It always leaves a sour taste in the mouth, and I really hope you guys don't hate me for this, but we've already spent a good amount of time building this system. I spent pretty much all day filming the B-roll for it and whatnot. And the emphasis is supposed to be on the case anyway. And I think that, well, despite not being able to actually test the system as is, you still get a good idea of what you're getting yourself into if you buy a Performance 1 Silent from Antec. Now, either the Silent or the straight up vanilla Performance 1 FT are great cases. They're full towers, so they're gonna support tons of hardware, including 420 mils up front. You get 3 140 mil fans standard up front already, which is great, and excellent airflow, of course. These come in black and white, and now a Silent iteration as well. I'm curious, I guess this would be a good time to try the left side panel and see how much quieter the system gets. There is a plethora of cables back here. I am so disorganized in this video. So let's see, quite loud right now. Again, that's not the case's fault or the fan's fault at all. And yeah, from the side, you really can't hear anything. It's coming from the top a bit, and of course, the rear. The graphics card isn't really doing much, but these fans are pretty much on full blast, and I think that's a consequence of there being something wrong with the platform, maybe the way things are wired. Again, we swapped the battery out. So to me, that was the obvious thing. I'm glad we checked it, but it still doesn't want to play ball. What a letdown then. I was really looking forward to testing this. Now, What I can give you, at least for now, is an average, what you should expect more or less from, say, a Firestrike synthetic or a TimeSpy one. In Firestrike, which is a 1080p synthetic from 3D Mark, this score is around 50% better than all submitted results, which isn't too bad. I actually expected it to be slightly higher than this, although again, this hardware is starting to show its age, and this is especially true in TimeSpy, which is a 1440p synthetic DX12 this time around, where it scores only better than 10% of all submitted results. Yeah. Hardware likes to show its age after a few years, in most cases, unfortunately, but this was still really fun to assemble. And again, I'm very sorry that we couldn't get it to fire up. I mean, we tried the battery thing really quick, but it's gonna take, I think, a bit more time to really figure out what this is. Now, it could be something simple, could be DDR3 related, could be graphics card related, but I still wanna save this for Fix or Flop because I wanna show you kind of how I approach situations like these where everything seems to be running fine, but you still get no picture to your monitor. Now at this point, I would normally say something along the lines of, you can find all of these parts that we've built with linked in the video description. However, that obviously cannot be the case because some of this stuff is just way too old. You might get lucky and find something on eBay that's in decent condition, and I'll try my best to throw up some general search links from eBay to kind of point you in the right direction. Otherwise, the two surefire things that you can buy today, brand new, are the Performance One Silent and the Neo Eco Power Supply series from Antec. And again, I'd like to thank Antec for continuing to support this channel, so be sure to show them some love via those links.
If you like airflow, you like yourself lots of fans,
8 PCIe slots,
sound damping panels, wow, this is like super heavy,
and a bunch of other goodies, the Performance One Silent is for you. I actually want to end with this little unrelated Easter egg. This is the included cooler in the Core i7 980X. And because it's never been used before, this thing is absolutely mint. I'm not sure if the camera's gonna focus, but check out how clean that looks. It is incredible. We still have the sticker over the cold plate. So, I mean, find me a cooler that's this old, that's unused, and in this great a condition. I cannot believe Hank still has this stuff. It's awesome. I didn't want to use this, by the way. We could have used it for this rig, but it was just in such good shape. I wanted to use something else. Again, I thought that Cooler Master cooler was actually new. It clearly wasn't, but I'm glad we preserved this. Just a bit of history to hold on to here. If you enjoyed watching this video, be sure to give us a thumbs up. That would be greatly appreciated. Please be gentle with me. I know this is not the end result we all wanted, but I will do my best, I can assure you, in the last episode of Season 4 of Fix or Flop to get this thing back up and running. I'm just a bit worried about replacement hardware because I don't have many things, if anything, this old in here that's just laying around and working. So we shall see. If you haven't subscribed already, get subscribed. Again, I want to thank Antec for supporting the channel. Show them some love, and I will catch you in the next one. My name's Greg. Thanks for learning with me.